on you. Your choice. So the format for tonight is we have Judge Nasca, who I'll introduce more formally in a moment, who's a New York State Supreme Court judge. He's going to talk to us about the courts, do a lot of explaining about what courts do what and where and when, and then we'll do questions following that. So let me introduce the Honorable Kevin Nasca. He is a New York State Supreme Court Justice in the 7th Judicial District. And exactly what that means, he's going to explain to us. And he was elected to the Supreme Court in 2019. He serves on a committee whose core purpose is to advance and sustain an environment of inclusivity in the courts and to set priorities that support a commitment to equity. Judge Nasca is a graduate of the State University of New York in Binghamton and Northeastern University School of Law in Boston. After law school, he worked as an assistant attorney general in the Consumer Protection and Antitrust Division in Massachusetts, and then returned to New York, where he served in the Monroe County Law Department and in the Monroe County Sheriff's Office as counsel to Sheriff Patrick O'Flynn. Prior to his election to Supreme Court, he served as a magistrate in Monroe County Family Court. So he brings lots of experience from lots of courts to our discussion tonight. Judge Nasca, take it away.
Thank you, Judge Morris. On behalf of myself and the 7th Judicial District's Administrative Judge William Taylor, I want to thank the League of Women Voters of the Rochester metro area for the invitation and the opportunity to meet with you tonight to talk about the New York judges that we elect and what the judges in each of those courts do. As Judge Morris mentioned, I'm a Supreme Court Justice, and one of the parts of my job that I truly enjoy and look forward to every year is I get to preside over the naturalization ceremonies that take place here in Monroe County, welcoming the new citizens as citizens of the United States. And I always see a representative of the league there at those naturalization ceremonies to provide information to our new citizens about the importance of voting and how to get on the rolls and signed up to vote, and to really give them information about one of the most important aspects of their new citizenship, which is the right to vote in our local and national elections. And at the last ceremony that I did back in 2024, the one in 2025 was canceled, unfortunately. I had the opportunity to chat briefly with Catherine Smith about the work that the league does and how much I enjoy actually being at these ceremonies and bringing these new citizens into their role as citizens of the United States. So I'd like to start with an overview of the 7th Judicial District. And what I want to do is I'll talk a little bit about the 7th Judicial District. I'll talk about each one of the courts that you would see on any of your ballots for local elections and what they do, what the eligibility requirements are to serve in one of those courts. And then at the end, if we have time, there are 3 levels of appointed judgeships that are in New York State. And although those specific judgeships won't appear on your ballot, you elect the people that make those appointments. Those are all appointed positions. So I think it's important as well to understand the appointments that take place, that are the appointments that are made by people that we elect to those 3 levels of the judiciary as well. So I'm going to share my screen here. All right, and can everyone see that slide?
Yep.
Okay. Oh. So the 7th Judicial District where I sit is, you'll see this orange area that runs from Lake Ontario down to the Pennsylvania border. It's an 8-county district with 6 cities. The state-paid courts in the district are housed in 15 courthouse facilities with 75 judges and 614 non-judicial staff with a budget of $72 million. The town and village courts, which also are in the 7th Judicial District, comprise 163 town and village courts with 263 judges. And the differentiation I made between state paid, the town and village court judges are paid by the towns and the villages where they sit. So we'll start with the town and village courts, which are also known as the justice courts. As I mentioned, there's 163 courts in total, staffed by 263 town and village justices. Their terms are 4-year terms. And the eligibility, and this is what makes them unique amongst all the other level judges in the state. You have to be a U.S. citizen. You have to be at least 18 years old. You don't have to be an attorney or have a law degree. And there's no mandatory retirement age. So those last two criteria, the no requirement that you have a law degree or be an attorney, and no mandatory retirement age, are the two things that differentiate them from all the other courts in New York State. The town and village courts, justice courts, are also the courts that most people will have interaction with over the course of their life. They have broad jurisdiction, including traffic violations, misdemeanors, civil claims up to $3,000, small claims, and landlord-tenant matters. And they also handle arraignments for misdemeanors and felony charges for those types of crimes that occur within their jurisdiction. They handle the arraignments for those. The felony charges would then be handled either at county courts or at the Supreme Court. But they are the judges that a party would first see when an accused is formally advised of the charges that are brought against him or her. They also act as family court judges for the issuance of warrants when family court's not in session. And in domestic violence cases, they're also authorized to issue orders of protection. They also serve in what's known as CAP court, which is our centralized arraignment part. As I mentioned before about arraignments, sometimes individuals will be arraigned right in the town court as their first interaction with the court system. That would have required town and village court judges to be on call 24 hours a day to handle an arraignment, sometimes in the wee hours of the morning. What the centralized arraignment part does, it establishes one central arraignment process for the entire county instead of the current patchwork system. Under that CAP system, there is a daily session at 9:30 a.m. Before a Rochester City Court judge, and 5 p.m. on weekends and 7 p.m. on holidays and weekends with the town and village court justices who handle CAP court responsibilities on a wheel basis. Essentially, they have to sit for one of those CAP courts on a rotating basis. So just to get into a little bit more detail about the types of cases that you'll see or that the judges see in town and village courts, small claims proceedings, which up to $3,000 for the small claims proceedings, are intended to provide a low cost and simplified informal procedure for individuals to resolve disputes involving limited monetary claims. The small claims process allows for individuals to represent themselves, not necessarily needing an attorney for those proceedings. The landlord-tenant matters are matters that may result in evictions, as well as money judgments for back rent that may be owed. Moving up the shade now, we have city courts. In the 7th Judicial District, we have city courts located in 6 cities. There are 2 judges in Auburn, 2 in Canandaigua, 2 in Corning, 3 in the city of Geneva, 2 in the city of Hornell, and 10 in the city of Rochester. Their term is 10 years with a mandatory retirement at age 70. And the eligibility criteria for city court judges is a judge must be an attorney with at least 5 years of practice. On the criminal side, they handle misdemeanors and lesser offenses, and they handle felony arraignments as well. And on the civil side, they handle cases involving claims up to $15,000, small claims cases involving claims up to $5,000, and landlord-tenant matters that include evictions for non-payment, evictions for failure to leave property after the right to stay ends, petitions to appoint an administrator to use rents to fix hazardous conditions, or petitions requesting a judgment directing repairs of dangerous conditions. City court judges can also be appointed as acting county court judges handling county court level matters. So just to give you an idea of the work that the judges do in city court, from 2025, some statistics about the criminal court cases handled by city courts. In 2025, they had 8,739 filings with 8,958 dispositions and 11 jury trials and 52 bench trials. Family court is the next court. Their term is 10 years, again, with a mandatory retirement at 70. The eligibility criteria are you need to be admitted to practice in New York for at least 10 years on the date they commence the duties of office. In Monroe County, family court is a little different than the family court in the other 7 counties in the 7th Judicial District. In Monroe County, judges are elected specifically to family court. So their entire docket is in their entire docket, they handle family court cases. In the other 7 counties in the 7th Judicial District, they're county court judges who also hear family court matters. And in some of the counties, they also hear surrogates matters, and they're referred to as multi-hat or tri-hat judges. So they would have dockets that include county court cases, family court cases, and surrogates court cases. All told, in the 7th Judicial District, there are 22 judges with family court responsibilities. And the family court judges handle custody and visitation matters, child support matters, juvenile delinquency cases, abuse and neglect matters, family offense proceedings that oftentimes result in the issuance of orders of protection, and adoptions. And family court judges can be appointed as acting Supreme Court justices and exercise jurisdiction over Supreme Court level matters. Just to give you an idea of the magnitude of the dockets that these family court judges have. In 2025, again, the 22 judges that have family court responsibilities adjudicated or had responsibility for 38,966 filings with 39,419 dispositions. And one of the reasons why there's so many filings and dispositions, and that differentiates that from county court and Supreme Court cases as well as city court cases, is you may have multiple filings in any given year for a family, for individual children. If there's a proceeding involving custody or a abuse or neglect situation, each one of the individual children may have a separate index number or case number. So that's why there's significantly more filings and dispositions in family court than you see in the other courts, because typically, one party would have one case before a court that may last more than a year. So it'd be rare that you would see multiple filings on behalf of a single individual. The next court is county court, which has county court judges have a term of 10 years. They also have a mandatory retirement at age 70. And the eligibility for family court is that you must be a resident of New York State and the county where you're running, and must be admitted to practice in New York State for at least 5 years. There are 20 elected county court judges in the 7th Judicial District, and the county court judges have both civil and criminal responsibility. On the criminal side, they handle felonies, which are the most serious types of crimes. Felonies are crimes where if someone is found guilty of a felony, he or she may be sent to prison for at least a year or as long as life imprisonment. And that's sent to prison, not sent to jail like the Monroe County Jail, which is typically for misdemeanor type convictions where the penalty, the incarceration is for a period of less than a year. On the civil side, they handle civil cases involving claims up to $25,000. And county court judges can be appointed as acting Supreme Court justices, exercising jurisdiction over Supreme Court level matters. In surrogates court, and just to take a step back, family court, county court, and surrogates court are all courts that are elected by electors in the county where that judge serves. So whereas the city court judges are elected in the city, town and village are elected from the electors in their town and village. The family court, county court, and surrogates court judges are elected from the electors in the county where they will serve. And that's different than Supreme Court, which I'll get to when we get to the Supreme Court justice information. So again, their eligibility, they need to be admitted to practice in New York for at least 10 years prior to the date they commence the duties of office. Each county has its own surrogates court. Most counties have a single surrogate court judge, while other counties split the role between some or all of their county court judges. So like in Livingston County, for instance, the 2 county court judges that they have in Livingston County are multi-hats or tri-hats. So they each have dockets comprised of county court, family court, and surrogates court matters. Whereas in Monroe County, we have one surrogate, surrogate court judge Chris Chacho, who adjudicates all the surrogates court matters in Monroe County. So the circuit court judges handle probate of wills, where a party has left a will, administration of estates, where a party has died or a decedent has died without a will, and the assets of the estate need to pass by the laws of intestacy. So a administrator for the estate needs to be appointed, and that individual has the fiduciary duty, as does an executor or executrix of a will, to administer the assets of the estate and distribute them, in the case of a will, to the parties that a decedent identifies as the individual to whom assets should pass. And in a administration where there is no will, distributing the assets pursuant to the laws of intestacy. The surrogates court judges also handle guardianships appointments for children and for developmentally or intellectually disabled adults, and also handle adoptions, which when I was in surrogates court, that had to have been the best part of the job as far as I was concerned. We would get families come in on probably one of the best days of their lives with the kids all dressed up. And it was just, it's one of the few times you're ever in a courtroom where everybody in the courtroom is just smiling ear to ear and is actually happy to be there. Surrogates court judges, as well as the county court judges and family court judges, can be appointed as acting Supreme Court justices exercising jurisdiction over Supreme Court level matters. So New York State Supreme Court, which unlike our federal counterparts, is not the highest court in the judicial system here in New York State. It's actually at the base of the pyramid. We are the court of general jurisdiction. So for cases that are at the level to be handled by Supreme Court, we are the level where the case is actually filed and where the initial adjudication takes place. Our intermediate level court system is the appellate division, and our highest court is the Court of Appeals in New York State, which, unlike the federal system, the Court of Appeals is the mid-level appellate court, with the U.S. Supreme Court as the highest level in the federal system. The term for Supreme Court justices is 14 years. We have a retirement requirement at 70, but unlike the other courts, we have the ability to be recertified for a maximum of 3 two-year terms. And if recertified for those terms, there is a mandatory retirement at the end of the year that a justice turns 76. The recertification process is a medical and cognitive recertification, just to ensure that if a judge wishes to serve past age 70, that they're actually able to serve. And it's also subject to the needs of the district where they serve. If there is an ongoing need for a judge to serve, then they can move forward with the recertification process. The Supreme Court justices, unlike the other courts that we've talked to up to this point, are elected from the electors in all 8 of the counties. So we run in that entire district that I showed you earlier that runs from Lake Ontario down to the Pennsylvania border. Whereas we run in that district, we're actually, Supreme Court justices actually have jurisdiction statewide. So if the needs of the unified court system warranted it, we could be transferred to one of the other judicial districts. There have been times in the past where, in order to assist other judicial districts with their backlog in court cases, judges have voluntarily been reassigned down to Bronx, down to Kings County. And, again, we do have statewide jurisdiction, so there's no issue with us serving in those other judicial districts if the needs of the court system warrant it. The eligibility to run for a Supreme Court and to serve is you need to be admitted to practice in New York for at least 10 years prior to the date that we commence the duties of office. And currently there are 21 elected Supreme Court justices in the 7th Judicial District, with 2 judges serving as certificated judges. Again, judges that have reached the age 70 but have been certificated to serve an additional 2-year term at this time. So as I indicated, the New York State Supreme Court is the main trial court of general jurisdiction. And what that essentially means is if a matter by law or by constitution isn't in the exclusive jurisdiction of another court, we have jurisdiction over it. So we have jurisdiction over, on the criminal side, felonies, coexistent with the county court judges. On the civil side, we handle just about everything from commercial cases to contract disputes, slip and falls. If you see a Salino law or a Barnes law or a William Mattar commercial for a motor vehicle accident, those cases are coming to us for our adjudication. We also handle election law matters, whether individuals have met threshold requirements for passing petitions or whether petitions are valid. We handle medical and other professional malpractice cases. We handle divorce proceedings and custody and support components of those proceedings, as well as real property actions. We handle cases involving what are known as Article 78 proceedings, which is if an individual challenges a determination of a governmental entity as being arbitrary and capricious. We handle cases involving those challenges. To give you some idea of, on the civil side, what we handle, in 2025, there were 8,117 filings with 7,410 dispositions and 12 jury trials, with 93 bench trials. 2 of those 12 jury trials were mine last year. So you'll notice, as many filings and dispositions as we have, there aren't really a lot of jury trials and bench trials. The vast majority of the cases settle, and we have a phenomenal alternative dispute resolution process here in the 7th Judicial District that utilizes court-employed mediators to get cases through a mediation process into a resolution. And they're incredibly successful. And the cases that I send to them, they will typically resolve anywhere from 90 to 95% of the cases that I'm sending to them. So they're doing a phenomenal job. On the criminal side, and this includes statistics for both county and Supreme Court, because as I noted, both of those courts have jurisdiction over felony cases. So the court system tends to track both of those courts in their criminal statistics together. So in 2025, there was 2,801 indictments filed with 3,122 dispositions and 138 jury trials and 61 bench trials. So those are the judgeships and court positions that you would see on a ballot in any given year. I also wanted to take a minute to talk about the appointed court positions, because as I indicated at the beginning, though you won't see these positions on a ballot, people that you do elect do have responsibility for appointments and for confirmations of the individuals that are appointed to these judgeships. So it's important that you understand that as well when you're making your choices at the ballot box of who to vote for. So Court of Claims judges handle claims against the state and certain state agencies. The judges are appointed by the governor and confirmed by the state senate for a term of 9 years. To be eligible, they have to be an attorney appointed to practice in New York State with at least 10 years of experience, and they have a mandatory retirement at age 70. The appellate division, which, as I mentioned when I was talking about Supreme Court, is our intermediate level appellate court. They're elected Supreme Court justices with the same 14-year term and the same eligibility requirements, but they're appointed to the appellate division by the governor. They have the same retirement provisions as other Supreme Court justices. The Court of Appeals, which is our highest level appellate court, you have to be a resident of New York State and have been admitted to practice law in New York for at least 10 years. You're not required to be a sitting court judge, nor are you required actually to be in active practice. You just had to have been admitted to practice law in New York for a period of at least 10 years. So the way Court of Appeals judges are selected is a bipartisan commission on judicial nominations evaluates candidates and recommends a list of up to 7 qualified candidates to the governor. The governor then selects a nominee from the list, and the nominee is sent to the New York State Senate for confirmation. The Court of Appeals judges have a 14-year term and must be reappointed by the governor and reconfirmed by the New York State Senate to remain on the bench past that 14-year term. They also have a mandatory retirement at age 70. So those are the judges and levels of judges that you would see here in the 7th Judicial District, as well as judges that would have responsibility for cases coming out of the 7th Judicial District. So I'm happy to take any questions that anyone might have at the present time.
Great. Judge, we thank you very much. And we do have, yes, indeed, applause. We do have 2 questions in the chat. So let me start with those. And then if others have, we're happy to address them to the judge. So first question, in one of your early slides, you noted that the number, or you didn't know, but the slide indicated that the number of filings was less than the number of dispositions. So the question is, how could there be more dispositions than filings? And that was for 2025.
So not every case comes to a resolution within a year. So that actually was a good year because the courts in that year were able to actually get some of the cases that were backlogged off of their case inventory in that year. So again, that was information for 2020, what happened in 2025. So clearly there were a number of cases that had been filed in prior years and were just coming to a final conclusion in 2025.
Thank you. Next question. What determines where a felony case is heard, whether it's county court or Supreme Court?
That's a matter of assignment here in the clerk's office. All of the judges are on a wheel, and the cases get assigned as they come in to certain judges. So there's no specific criteria. It's just whichever judge is up on the wheel for a new case assignment when that case comes in.
Next question. When does a will have to go to probate?
Well, any will pretty much should go to probate, because what happens in probate is that the executor or executrix actually gets formally appointed by surrogate's court to undertake the duties and responsibilities of a fiduciary to marshal all the assets of the estate, to pay all the debts of the decedent, and then to distribute whatever remaining funds are left to the beneficiaries that are noted in the will. So taking it through the probate process results in a decree of probate, which is an official order of the court that officially designates and notes the individual as having the authority to actually take the steps in the will on behalf of the estate. You couldn't walk into a bank with just a will that says, I'm the executor, and expect the bank to turn over funds to you or stock accounts or anything like that. They really need the decree of probate and what are called letters testamentary, which is the official document that banks and commercial entities require to show that you are officially appointed as the fiduciary for that estate.
How can
Go
you
ahead, follow up.
How can you avoid probate?
Well, the way to avoid probate would be to ensure that all of your assets have beneficiary designations or joint owners on those accounts. I mean, that would certainly be one way to not have to go through a probate process. Things like insurance policies, if they have designated beneficiaries, things like investment accounts, if they have designated beneficiaries, those travel outside the estate and the proceeds can be sent directly to whoever the beneficiary was. Things, houses, if houses are in joint name, they would pass outside of an estate. The problem, occurs if there isn't somebody jointly titled, then there has to be somebody appointed with the power to actually get those assets together, pay the creditors, and distribute the assets, either pursuant to the terms of the will or via the laws of intestacy if there's not a will.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Next question. This is a great question. What should we look for in voting for judges?
I have to be careful in answering this question, because as a sitting judge, we're kind of limited in what we can say about certain matters. What I would say on the issue of what should you look for in judicial candidates is look for experience. I mean, you're as electors in any district, we're entrusting judges to make unbiased, impartial decisions based on the law and the facts that are presented to them. Judges on the campaign trail can't tell you how they would rule on any given case. We can't, after we're elected as well, even talk about hypotheticals about cases that may be pending or may be impending in any court in the United States, because we're not supposed to prejudge cases. We're supposed to hear the cases that's presented to us, take the evidence that's presented to us and that's officially before us, that's been received into evidence, and make a determination based on the laws that exist at that time and the facts that are presented us in any given case. And every case is going to be different. You might have two cases that sound the same, but there's always going to be facts that make a case different. Getting back to the issue of experience, I think a candidate that brings practice experience to the bench is very helpful, because that judge can see the case from both sides of the bench. They know what it's like to be a practitioner in the court, and they have the experience of knowing what the breadth of cases that a judge may see in their court. So I think for me, that's always an important criteria when I'm looking at judicial candidates, is kind of what's been their experience and what do they bring to the bench in the way of that experience.
Thank you. That's all the questions that are in the chat. Oh, here comes another one. Are there records of where judges get campaign contributions?
It's all publicly available information at the State Board of Elections. All the judicial candidates have to report where their donations come from, who their donations come from, and what expenses they pay with those donations. So that information is available. It's available through the campaign process. There's certain specific reporting requirement dates during the campaign, as well as after the campaign is over. So yes, those are available. So.
Do we have other questions? There are no other questions in the chat, though there is a survey I'll reference in a moment. But are there any other questions? Folks want to raise their hand, or folks want to put additional questions in the chat?
I guess I'd like to ask.
Sure, take it away.
I wonder, with the current state of affairs going on and many constitutional perspectives being not addressed legally and through the court system, is there anything that public citizens you would recommend can do to put pressure on federal judges, or how to reconcile this?
I can't answer that question.
You can't answer that.
No, I can't answer that question because the ethical rules would prevent me from advocating, how to put pressure on other judges in other jurisdictions.
Okay. I respect your answer.
Yeah, I appreciate that, and I appreciate it's like I indicated. We're very limited in what we can say again about matters of politics, matters of court cases that may come before us or maybe before other judges in other jurisdictions. So, while everyone has opinions, my opinion doesn't matter for purposes of the cases that are before me. As I indicated, what's important in any given case is the law and the facts as they're presented to us in this case or in that case.
And I would just confirm that there are judges are bound by many ethical rules, and one of them is that you cannot take a position on a disputed matter of legal or public affairs questions.
Nor can we give legal advice.
Right.
For obvious reasons.
And it is frustrating as a judge because many times you are passionate about an issue and want to speak out and share your views, but cannot be done.
Yeah, as I indicated, I mean, we're all human. We all have opinions. But when I get these questions, my response is, I'd be happy to tell anyone who asks what my opinion is on January 1st, 2034, after my term is over. That's really the only time that I have that latitude. At that point, when I become, a citizen who has First Amendment rights again.
I have a
But as
question.
citizen, there's no recourse for a citizen to be able to provide accountability. Is that correct?
Well, I don't think that is correct. I mean, with judges, at least in the state court system, other than the appointed judges, we're subject to being elected. I mean, we meet the electorate at the polls. If people don't like what we're doing, we won't have that job in a second term.
Okay.
I have a question.
Federal level, I'm sorry, at the federal level, I'll come right back to you. At the federal level, federal level judges are subject to confirmation in the Senate. Yes, they're lifetime appointments, but like a lot of federal court positions, they are subject to oversight and potential removal if the situations warrant.
And do you want to talk a moment or two, and Elizabeth, then we'll get to you, about the commission that oversees judges and has the authority to discipline and even remove from office a judge?
Yeah, we are subject to the Judicial Conduct Commission here in New York State, which has oversight over judges at all levels that we've discussed today. And part of what they do is they oversee and implement the rules governing judicial conduct, which are very specific about what we can and can't do. We can't get involved in political activities once we're on the bench. We can't get involved in fundraising activities, even for charities. We can't lend our name to commercial entities. We can't utilize the office for our own benefit or for other individuals' benefit. And the Conduct Commission reviews complaints that are submitted by individuals in the community, either litigants or attorneys or anyone in the community. They investigate them. If the situation warrants, the commission can bring formal charges that can result in a censure. They can result in an admonition letter, which is sent to the judge and maintained on file. Censure, which is a public censure. They can be removed. They can be suspended for a period of time, or they can be removed from the bench permanently. So, we not only because the ultimate outcome may be removal from the bench, but we take these rules seriously because the community relies on us to be fair and impartial in the job that we do. And it's important for us to abide by rules that are laid out for us if we expect the community to abide by the laws and the rules that the government puts out for everyone else.
Elizabeth.
Oh, my question was, I know you can't really speak on this, but you said that judges have to abide by ethical protocol, but federally, and I know you really can't speak on this as well, but I don't understand federal judges, specifically in the Supreme Court. We have judges that go out and speak to organizations that are very slanted toward their philosophy, we'll say. And yet they get away with that. And currently, judges are getting away with that on our Supreme Court. Personally, they should not be there for life. I think that that creates more of an opening for them to just keep doing what they're doing and not even worry about being, as you said, impeached, or because there's been many cases currently where you have a Supreme Court judge overseeing a case. They should not even be overseeing that case, but they are. So, can you just speak on, as a citizen, what kind of recourse do we have on that? I don't think we do.
The lifetime.
Yet we're paying, and yet as a taxpayer, my tax dollars are going to that judge who is not following protocol.
Let's let the judge respond. Judge.
Sure.
The lifetime appointments, that's either in Article 3 for the judges that aren't Supreme Court judges or in the Constitution.
Mm-hmm.
So the way to change those is through constitutional amendments. As far as the rules of judicial conduct, the Supreme Court, as the highest court in the land, doesn't have its own set of judicial conduct rules.
Exactly.
Because they're the highest court in the land. Who's going to? There isn't anyone higher than that court in the judicial system to oversee that system. The federal court judges, the Article 3 judges, so the Court of Appeals and the district court judges, they do have conduct rules, and they do have an organization that oversees their compliance with the conduct rules. But the Supreme Court is, as it was envisioned in the Constitution and as it has been since its implementation in the Constitution, as one of the three co-equal branches of government.
I know that President Biden had suggested a change to an 18-year term. Every 2 years, somebody would rotate off. Every president then would have the opportunity to nominate two, and it would be equal for every president. Can you comment on that, Judge Nasca?
Good question.
I can't, because I have my own opinions about that and about lifetime appointments, but it's not appropriate for me to comment on another court.
And
much less the U.S. Supreme Court.
Here's then also a follow-up to one of the things you said, that you're accountable by election, but your term is 14 years. County
Correct.
Court's 10 years, and family court, that's substantial. Town courts are only 4 years. What do you think the difference is related to?
I don't know if that's a component or that's driven somehow by the fact that the town and village court judges don't need to have law degrees or need to be practicing attorneys. I don't know what the rationale was behind that, but it brings it more in line with, I think, the other positions in any town or village. Typically, aren't those 2 or 4 year positions on town boards or village boards?
Yeah, village boards, town boards are 4 years. Supervisor and clerk are 2 years, though it can be modified by the town.
Right. So I don't know if it was intending to bring those more in line with the other elected positions in that jurisdiction. The one thing I would note about town and village courts and the justice courts in general, they've been in existence in the state of New York since the early 17th century, since the original European settlers here. And it's really only since in the New York State constitutions in 1777 and 1821 that set up the rest of the court system in New York State didn't touch the town and village courts because they had been in existence so long and had their own system, and didn't make them subject to a lot of the other requirements that the other level courts in New York State are required to have as eligibility requirements. So they're really an interesting branch of the judiciary because of kind of the differences. They're the history of their existence, first of all, but also the differences in the requirements and the eligibility requirements for those town and village justices. And I think personally, I'm glad they're there. I'm glad we have them because, you saw how many courts and how many justices we have just in the 7th Judicial District that handle, the types of cases that they have jurisdiction over. And if they weren't there to handle those cases, those would naturally flow into the rest of the judiciary. And they really do phenomenal work, I think, at the town and village level. So I'm glad we have them.
3 more good questions. Are there still organizations who rate judges as qualified, highly qualified, not qualified?
The Monroe County Bar Association, I think they had suspended theirs. I don't know if they have restarted it again. The Monroe County Black Bar Association the Rochester Black Bar Association has done those evaluations, as has GRAWA, which is the Greater Rochester Women's Attorneys Organization here. They do the evaluations of judges and usually post those evaluations in the fall, I believe.
Next question. If judges cannot solicit campaign donations, can they take funds offered to them, or do they have to use all their own money?
When I said we can't solicit donations, when a judge is running, when a candidate is running for a judgeship, you have a campaign committee and typically have a treasurer who's the individual who actually solicits or does the fundraising for a judge. So during a campaign, a candidate can raise funds to be used for the campaign. But once elected, then we can't be involved in any type of political or any type of charitable or other fundraising type events.
And one last question, at least if I'm in the chat, a very good question. Given that only appellate division and Court of Appeals judges are appointed, what do you think is better? Election of most judges on partisan lines or by appointment?
Well, like I said, I'm always reluctant to answer a better question. What I will say is I have been in jurisdictions that had each. So when I was practicing in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, those were appointed judges. Here in New York, obviously, for most of them, we have elected judges. Each has their benefits and each has their problems. I don't think either one is a perfect system. And I think, like I said, each one of them has their own issues that electors in those jurisdictions need to resolve for themselves when they go to the polls.
Okay.
Even if you have an appointed judge, you're still electing the people that appoint the judges, or electing the person that appoints the commission that makes the recommendations to the governor that makes the appointment. So at the end of the day, you're voting for somebody, either directly or indirectly, that's going to affect how the judiciary operates in the state.
Thank you. Do we have more questions? Seeing none, 2 things I would point out. One, the league put in or maybe Mary, you're going to comment about that, but there is a survey in the chat, and if you'd like to give feedback, the league would be grateful. There also is a note, Judge Nasca, saying, thank you, Judge Nasca, awesome panel. This was extremely helpful.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I hope that's the view of everybody who attended. That was certainly the goal of the league. And now I turn it back over to Mary McKett from the league. Oh, look, the little, yeah.
We got a little. I just want to reiterate that it met our goal. We have a civic education forum and committee, and we wanted to make sure people had an opportunity to learn what all those judges that are on our ballots do, and what to consider when we're electing them. And I think you met our goal, and we appreciate your time and the effort you took into the presentation, Kevin. Thank you.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity. And like I said at the beginning, I appreciate everything the league does to inform people about the election process and things that are going on in the community and that are important for an individual to think about when they go to the ballot box. So thank you.
Thank you.
No, thank you.
Great. Good night, all.
Good night.
Yes, indeed.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.